Marriage and other long-term relationships can be wonderful, but they can also be really tough. It's natural to expect and even believe that romantic partnerships should last forever. Yet, in real life, many love relationships fall apart due to factors such as ongoing differences, a lack of connection, betrayal, health issues, or abuse. And in some cases, a terrible combination of these issues can cause the relationship to explode at the seams. It can be tempting to stay, to weather the storm and hope it gets better. But sometimes the healthiest option is making that tough choice to exit the situation. And while divorce and other relationship endings can come with many heavy costs, from financial struggles to deep emotional drain, sometimes the price you pay to stay is far more devastating. Join me and a brilliant self-care advocate, attorney, and former domestic violence judge for a deep dive into relationships and divorce. Today, we'll focus on this listener's real-life concern. I want to leave my marriage of 19 years, but I know I can't because of personal and financial issues. My husband is an extreme narcissist, and he's emotionally abusive 24/7. I've considered leaving him for the 15 years that we've been together. Things were pretty good in the first few years, or maybe I was just stupid and blind to what was going on. Now that I'm getting older, I don't have the patience and resilience I used to. The ongoing abuse is affecting my health. I'm chronically tired and worn out. Divorce is impossible, but my husband would make sure I didn't get a penny. He would cut me off from my friends. How can I cope? Because I need to stay. And with that issue as the focus of today's episode, I'm Dr. Carla Marie Manley, and this is Imperfect Love.
Welcome to Imperfect Love with Dr. Carla Marie Manley, psychologist, author, and relationship expert. I'm here to help unravel mysteries and misconceptions about love, relationships, and mental health issues, plus everything in between. Love is complicated, people are imperfect, and relationships surely can be tough. Together, we'll navigate this messy, imperfect space of real life.
Please note, as this episode contains sensitive information, listener discretion is advised. If you need extra support, please see the special links in the show notes. Today, I am joined by a tremendous special guest, Michele Locke. Michele is an attorney, former domestic violence judge, and self-care advocate. Welcome to the podcast, Michele. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
I am so happy to be here and talking to you today. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for making special time for us. So before we launch into this very sad and often all too common question or concern, could you tell our listeners just a little bit about what makes you, you?
What makes me me is you either love me or you hate me. There's not much in between. I wanted to be a lawyer since age 8, a judge since age 9, and I never really deviated from that path. Family law has been a calling for me most of my life because I've really kind of lived every aspect of family law, whether it's child is divorced, my dad was remarried 4 or 5 times, I lost count. I have a stepdad who, quite frankly, is part of the reason where I am today, because he was so wonderful and is so wonderful. And I do family law for a living, and I've been through quite a journey myself. I've had 15 surgeries in a little under 5 years, and that was because I didn't take care of myself. I put my husband first, I put his kids first, I put our kids first. And I wasn't even number 4 or 5 on the list. I was probably number 99. But
Oh my.
I really learned the hard way that you can't put yourself last. And I did. And I paid the price. So now I have much better boundaries. I'm much better about saying no, as someone has once told me that is a complete sentence. And I'm much better at filling my cup first. And it's not selfish. It's because if I can't fill mine, then I can't fill others.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Before we move on, first, I've had the pleasure of chatting with you. This is my second time, and even the first time. If there's a Love Michelle and a Don't Love Michelle club, I'm in the former. I'm in the Love Michelle club. You're
I
in.
can, I can assure you, if I have cross-examined you in court, you are on the I do not like Michelle club. And that's okay. I understand.
Okay. I'll stay away from your courtroom.
Probably good
Stay away
call.
from courtrooms in general.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a generally a good life policy.
Second question, which you can opt out of or it's actually my first question, second comment. If you don't mind responding, was your divorce easy? I'm guessing not.
So yes and no. That's a little more complicated answer. My
Mm.
ex-husband's also an attorney. He was a prosecutor, and we were together 24 years, married 22. The divorce itself was not difficult. That being said, the getting out and the lead up to me moving out and the divorce was an absolute living nightmare.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so in comparison to what I've been living through, he's got his story, I've got mine. But living through what I went through, the divorce was the easy part. Both of us were litigators, both of us lived and breathed in the courtroom, and so I think both of us were smart enough to know what can happen in the courtroom, and that was not gonna be what's best for our son or each other. Things are said in court that you can't come back from, and bridges are burned that you can't come back from, and so we both settled. One side gave more than the other to get out, and that's sometimes what happens. And the divorce itself we got it done, but the getting out took every bit of strength I had.
So it from a lived experience place how devastating a bad marriage and divorce, as necessary as it sometimes is, how it adds to that burden. And you said you had 15 surgeries?
I've had 15 surgeries, of
15
which
surgeries because you weren't able to take care of yourself. You were focusing on everyone else.
listen, I was almost 300 pounds at one point. I'm now down about 118 pounds from my highest weight. I stopped getting on the scale when I hit about 286, but I know I got
Mm.
heavier than that. And I know it's because I used food as an emotional crutch to deal with my situation in particular, the completely unhealthy way to deal with it. But I didn't take care of myself. I didn't, and I suffered the consequence. And so and I do this for a living. That's the thing is I see the red flags, I see the personality disorders, I see them each and every day. But even those that know the most still are susceptible to falling to some of those things. And it is so much easier to be on the outside and say, "Hey, why aren't you seeing this? Why aren't you getting out?" than being on the inside and just trying to survive every day to get to the next, to get out. It's different. And so when people tell their friends, "I don't know why you just don't get out," that's not helpful. What they should be saying instead is, "I'm here when you're ready," or "How can I help?" Because just telling them, "I don't know why you're not getting out," makes them feel worse. It gives them more shame. I can assure you they already have enough shame from not being able to extricate themselves from their situation, because it's sometimes embarrassing and shameful to admit that you got into that position to begin with.
100%. Having been there, I get it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And not that everyone doesn't, or most people don't feel shame when things in a romantic relationship or any relationship have gone bad because we want to appear like we're successful parents, successful romantic partners, successful daughters, whatever, sons, whatever it is. And when that world behind closed doors is dysfunctional, particularly if you are in a, again, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it's not difficult in other realms, but if you're someone who is supposed to have it all together, a doctor, a lawyer, a psychologist, a fireman, a fire, emergency person, anything. The world's looking to you to have it all together because they need you. And so it's all the more difficult. And if you're the partner of one of those people, breaking that bubble, that appearance that it's all good, that it's all together. So it's difficult no matter your profession, whether you have a profession or not. It's a really difficult time when you have to or get called to let go of the appearance and really do what you need to do, which takes me to the piece you talked about where you said self-care is critical, self-awareness, doing for yourself. And it's what I have coined being self-full because people are afraid of being what they call selfish. And so to just sidestep that and say it's not self, this piece is being aware, fully aware, growing toward that. We'll never be fully aware because we keep changing, but becoming as fully aware as we can day to day. And you're right, when we're in it, when we're in a bad relationship, we are often, I work with this every day, as do you. We often can't see what's happening in our own lives. If we were a fly on a wall in somebody else's life, we could say, oh yeah, this is what's happening. I see this. There's a narcissist. This person's being abusive. But when we're in it, sometimes we're struggling so hard just to stay afloat that we don't have the bandwidth to dissect. And even if we could, seeing what's happening in our own relationships is so much harder. And then sometimes when we get distance, we're out, we take a break, we get a separation, a divorce, we're in therapy. That's when those lights start going on. But you've really been through it. So are you healing from all your surgeries? How are you doing?
I am probably pain-free for the first time in a decade, which is really nice. I am finding joy again, and kind of this new path that I've gone down is really been therapeutic for so many reasons, and my hopefully ability and my message to others inspires others to get out and take care of themselves, because going through what I went through, I wouldn't wish on anyone. I just wouldn't. It was, I think I've spent the last 5 years either preparing for, gearing up for, or healing from a surgery. I mean, really, since November of 2020 is when it all started. And honestly, I did it to myself. Like, the other part is that you have to take ownership in your own issues and faults. And while my marriage was not what I had hoped it would have been, I did stay and I did choose to ignore myself. That's on me. And so now I'm fixing that. Now that's going to change, or it has changed. And now my message is to others to not do what I did and throw out the Instagram perfect, because it's not real. And most recently, you do a lot of self exploration when you're trying to figure out where you went wrong or where you lost sight of who you were. In life, and I think you and I, when we've talked before, I've talked about this. Life is a journey. And at the end of your life, you look back on your journey, and is it what you wanted it to be? Because at the end of your life, there is no Instagram perfect. It's just you and your thoughts about what your journey was. So is your journey what you wanted it to be? Or did you live it for something else?
That's really beautifully put. And I think that love, whatever it is that's important to us, whenever our time comes to leave the planet, can we look back with compassion and say, did I love well? Did I live well? And, that's to me, that's the essence. But for some people, it's looking back and saying, this is how much stuff I accumulated. Okay. No judgment there.
Doesn't fit in the casket.
It doesn't, you can't take it with you. That's the old saying, and it's so true. So when we look at your life and then pivot to looking at this listener's question, and you really focus a lot in your work on narcissism, could you talk to us? Let me just take a break from the narcissism for a second. Behind you in neon letters. And for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, who aren't seeing the video, it's beautiful. Michele, tell me about what's behind you truly in neon letters.
It's truly in neon letters. It's my podcast sign. It's Love, Lust, Law is my podcast. And I have to tell you, I ordered this sign, and my executive producer is the same sign as well. And it just makes me happy. So even though I'm not doing my own podcasting stuff today, I've been working up my law practice today. I turn it on every day because it just brings a smile to my face. It just makes me happy. So yeah, so that's my podcast sign. Love, Lust, Law.
It is so Love, Lust, Law.
Correct. Love, Lust, Law. Because where there is love, there is lust. And along with all of that, there's going to be the court system at some point.
Okay. I may someday get a neon sign from my office, but it will not have anything to do with law. Okay.
But it just makes me happy. It's like I come into my office, first thing I do is plug it in.
It is. I could imagine this is taking that into a courtroom, plugging it in behind you. And boy, that would lighten, no pun intended, that would lighten the tone of the courtroom.
It does. But it really, it's my happy sign.
With a big kiss at the top of it. Big red lipstick kiss.
But that's my signature in court. When I go to the court for one of my hearings, I wear red lipstick so that the lips were modeled off of my Power Red lipstick that I have worn for a decade, at least, if not longer. But I'm a big believer in putting on that red lipstick and going to be the boss in court.
There you have it. Okay. So
today is not the red lipstick because it's not the appropriate form for it.
And on me, red lipstick will never work. So I'm
going to disagree. And I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree because a version of red works on about every woman. The question is, what is the base of that red? I wear blue reds. And so that's what works for me. But about everyone can.
Maybe I'll spend some time. I don't even know what a blue red is. There we go. Sounds like a black blue mark.
Listen, and there is nothing more for me. Everyone's different. There is nothing more empowering for me than wholeheartedly embracing my femininity, putting on that red lipstick, and going into court. Like that is me.
Hey, for me, it's just remembering to brush my hair. My husband will say, "Hey, honey, could you please brush your hair?" Oh, yeah, I totally forgot. Okay. So now let's move into narcissism.
That's a minefield.
Okay.
So let's start with I'm a lawyer. So everything I'm about to say is not because I'm a licensed psychologist. I'm not a therapist. Everything I talk about is because I deal with it in the courtroom and I deal with it in clients. And we all know that narcissistic personality disorder is on the DSM, and it's one of the cluster B disorders, so it's one of the more difficult ones to treat. It's really one you can't, I don't think, really treat with medication. And so it makes it problematic. What I find is that word is overused in social media these days for a couple of reasons. One, you can have narcissistic traits and not be a narcissist. And I think that is what people miss quite often. For example, I'd be willing to bet about every CEO out there in America has narcissistic traits. They can't do what they do unless they have them. I can about guarantee you that every litigator, every attorney that goes into that courtroom and picks juries and tries cases has some narcissistic traits. Why? Because there's no way we get in the courtroom and go do it if we didn't have those traits. So narcissistic traits themselves are not necessarily a bad thing, right? They're just not. They can actually be useful in some areas of life. It becomes a problem when you have too many of the characteristics and it defines your behaviors and actions every single day. And you know more about this than I do because you've got doctor before your name. I don't. And so I hope that you correct me if I'm wrong on anything I'm saying.
Oh, you've got it. And I agree with you. Narcissistic personality disorder is a diagnosable mental health disorder. It is in the DSM 5 and will likely be in the next revision. And what we see in narcissism is that it's on a continuum. There's healthy narcissism. And as you go on that continuum, you get closer and closer to the place that we're talking about, which is true narcissistic personality disorder, where somebody's life, even if it looks good on the outside, and a lot of people with NPD, I'll just call it NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, are high functioning.
Oh, absolutely.
Unit.
And extremely intelligent, typically.
Oh, they're often super intelligent.
Mhm.
What happens is they don't have the empathy. They don't have the
Correct.
emotional intelligence. They will lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, gaslight, do anything that they feel needs to be done in order to get their needs met. That's where we get to that end where when we start moving into narcissistic personality disorder, which shares some commonalities with borderline personality disorder. And
yes, it does.
It does. And it shares some characteristics with antisocial personality disorder, which some people call sociopath.
I was like, sociopathic behavior.
But they are all different. And
they are.
We're out there on Instagram saying that somebody's a narcissist because they're looking in the mirror. We're diluting the true meaning of narcissism, and not just saying that's a narcissistic trait, which would be a healthier way to identify it. So I agree with you. You did a great job.
Correct. So when you're dealing, and so in my litigation realm, I usually handle I seem to get hired on high conflict cases, not because I want them to be high conflict, but that's what happens. And typically what I find is when we get into a courtroom proceeding and you have to go through hearing after hearing after hearing and end up in final trial, that you're going to have at least one of the parties with a personality disorder, because most reasonable people will resolve their differences. They won't necessarily resolve them to the level of what they wanted, because when you settle a case, both sides walk away unhappy. That's always the sign of a successful mediation, when both sides walk away unhappy. But when you're dealing with an NPD, they have to win at all costs. They will cut off their nose to spite their face. Period.
Absolutely. They're all about winning.
It is about destruction. How dare you cross me? How dare you don't, take my position? How dare you not do what I'm telling you to do? And then it's, I'm going to show you.
Absolutely. And what that does is it cuts down that type of personality. It's one of the most difficult things about narcissistic personality disorder. Not that this issue that I'm about to talk about, which is where you're leading us, isn't alive in people without NPD, but one of the common parts of NPD is the lack of ability to communicate in open and honest, clear and respectful, transparent, kind ways.
Wait, what? What? Can we have those words again? It's been a while since I've seen this. Like, I deal with so much dysfunction. I don't know that I would know what normal health looks like unless my therapist told me it was.
It's one of the things that I've found. It's part of what I specialize in. And in my fourth book, The Joy of Imperfect Love, I go to great lengths to, detail what healthy communication looks like. Because often I'll work with people in the business realm and they'll say, well, I communicate great with my employees and everybody at work loves me and everyone in my office thinks I'm fab. So why am I having trouble at home? And regardless of your gender, if you're the boss or the supervisor, you can do fine at work. especially in those situations where you're calling the shots, is when you come home into your intimate home environment with your partner, kids, where people really get to know you, which many of your quote unquote friends,
And they don't know.
they,
They don't see behind the doors.
they
What's
don't see
behind the doors is totally different for NPDs in
totally.
particular.
And that's where we see true emotional intelligence either exist or be largely absent. That ability to do basic things like reflective listening, using I statements, not interrupting, asking for clarification, talking in a kind and respectful tone instead of talking down at someone or yelling or barking or using expletives that immediately, create hardship. So, yes, most narcissists, that's their arsenal. They love to gaslight. They love to criticize.
You think you're crazy by the end of it because they're telling you these things and it's their version, and you think to yourself, I know this didn't happen. I know this is not where it is. But then they're so good at it that, and this goes back to the question from the listener, they're so good at it that it makes you feel like you're trapped. It makes you feel like you can't get out. It makes you feel like you'll be left with nothing, that you'll have no means to support yourself. What they do is designed to keep you stuck so that they keep getting their fill at your expense.
And that's the narcissistic supply, isn't it? They feed on making other people feel sad, feel badly about themselves. They feed on seeing somebody else cry or get upset. And at the opposite end, they also feed on adoration. They feed on going into that workplace where everybody's saying, aren't you wonderful? You're such, you're so smart. You're so this, you're so that. And then they come home where they've broken the relationship. So, of course, their once beloved is not looking at them adoringly. I hear this one all the time. And so then they're mad at that person because that person no longer adores them. Why?
How dare you not love me for treating you like crap?
And say more. You've got it exactly.
Like, how dare you? How dare you not love me? How dare you not forgive me the instant I say I'm sorry for all that litany of names you've spent calling me the last 2 weeks? How dare you?
Absolutely. And we can only imagine with our listener's question, it's likely she's saying that the husband abuses her, 24/7. So sounds like, every waking hour there's something going on. And that's what people with NPD specialize
Oh, it
in.
never stops. They
They
never let up.
Yeah, they even in the periods where their nice side appears, they often just keep
For a
poking
hot
into
24 hours?
Yeah, they can be merciless because in the moment you let your guard down, there it is, zinger, zinger, jab, jab, jab. And then when you say, ow, that hurt me, the narcissist says, oh, it was just a joke.
It was
Oh,
just a joke. I didn't mean it.
didn't mean
You're overly sensitive. You're too emotional. Like, really? You're that stupid that you would take it seriously? I could keep going.
Absolutely. And just calling out some of the key behaviors. Another common one is the revisionist history, which is part of the gaslighting. I didn't say that. I actually said it this way. Oh, you're saying I swore at you and called you this and that. But no, actually, you made that up. I really said, how lovely you look.
Or my favorite one was, "You misheard me."
Mm. I imagine you hear that one a lot.
I heard it for 24 years.
Ah, so you were married to a narcissist.
Well, I can't say there was ever a diagnosis. I can say there were traits is all I can say.
And that's what we'll stay with. And again, it's really beautiful that you say it that way because if somebody hasn't been diagnosed,
Right. You can't
then
call them that. If they haven't been diagnosed officially, you can't call them that.
yeah. And getting a narcissist into an assessment setting and
Good luck.
that's the first part. And second part, they can be so manipulative that even in an assessment, even in a really well done assessment, the questions are, I mean, if you're smart, you can figure out where they're headed so they can actually evade. The other piece about narcissism, listeners, this is a really important piece. Narcissists lack self-awareness. So sometimes what you see, they have become so habituated to, they can't see or don't want to see that they're gaslighting or lying or, Michelle, your eyes are getting bigger and bigger. What's happening? What are you thinking here?
It's, I feel sorry for the listener because there are times when you are dealing with someone like that. And I'm sorry, what you were saying was were triggering some memories for me. Um,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Um, it gives me for great material. It's all right. But it also gives me the ability to help people because I know how challenging it is when you feel like all hope is lost, where you feel like there is no escape, like our listener, or like your listener, that there is no hope, there is no escape. She can't get out. She's stuck, and it's every single day because towards the end, it gets to be every single day. And the good times lasted longer in the beginning. And then towards the end, the bad times last infinitely, endlessly, and you get good for just enough to give you just enough hope to keep you around another day. And so it is, so I sympathize, empathize, and want to empower the listener to know that what she is being told is not the reality. She can get out, she can be okay, and she will be okay. She just has to find that courage, that group of friends to lean on, even though she said she'll lose her friends, because I'm sure he's threatened it. I'm sure he'll say, once your friends find out what you've done, they won't be your friends anymore. Wait till I tell your parents, so because then your parents won't love you anymore. And so what I would tell her if that's her scenario is that don't believe it. Don't believe it. It's not true. You have people out there that love you. You have people out there that will pick you up when you don't want to get back up anymore.
Absolutely. And it's so, Michelle, thank you for really focusing on that very poignant piece because narcissists specialize, one of their many unfortunate specialities is to isolate, to make the person to, you know, keep people away from their friends, even their kids, their loved ones. They don't want them and they will fracture relationships. They will say things, I don't want your kids coming to the house, or I don't want your mom coming to the house, or I don't want your friends coming over, whatever it is. They find all sorts of reasons and ways to isolate people. And so the person in that relationship often feels not only embarrassed and ashamed, but very, very alone, which is why getting support, even if you can't afford one-on-one psychotherapy, you can likely afford a, you know, to go to a support group, gas to get to a support group or an online support group. There
I'll
are
say there's so many online support groups that if you can't leave the house, which happens in some of these cases, or you can't leave the house unmonitored, so to speak, lots of online resources that can help that don't cost anything because there are people that want to help.
absolutely. And being in a support group with other women, I've run support groups, I've been in support groups, having people who know what you've experienced or are experiencing, who can validate you. And domestic violence support groups, groups that help people who are victims of narcissism, that sort of thing. It's not just about sitting in a circle and all telling your stories. That can be part of it. But a lot of it is about self-esteem building, self-confidence building, self-fullness building, also offering resources and taking that first step And, to the person who wrote in, we can't recommend that she leave or not leave, but we can
Nope.
say that there is life on the other side. That step out that front door feels incredibly scary.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
It's terrifying because all you have in the back of your head is what you were told for the last however many years. And it's on a vicious cycle until you stop that wheel turning, and it stays with you in the beginning that you're not worthy. If people knew about you, they wouldn't like you. If you're not smart, you just think you are. I mean, it's all of that rolls around in your head until at some point you realize it's not true. And you realize that it was told to you to manipulate you, to control you, to keep you under their thumb, to do what they wanted you to do. But that first step, I'm not gonna lie, is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But you do get through it. I mean, we're all afraid. Everyone afraid or terrified of giving birth the first time, but you get through it.
You do. And what you realize is on the other side of fear, once you start working through it, is joy, is breath, is freedom. And it's a process, but a process so worth doing because on the other side of all of that is your real, genuine, true self. And a piece that I found to be true, personally and professionally, is that especially, I know you mentioned you had this really lovely resource of your stepdad, but for many people, if you grew up in an environment where you didn't have a lifeline, where you had one or two parents who were constantly criticizing you, holding you down, and it only takes one, doesn't take both.
No, it only takes one.
Only takes one. And it can even be a sibling. It can be a
It
sibling
can.
saying, you're ugly, you're worthless, no one will love you, everything you touch turns to crap kind of thing, whatever it is. And those become internalized beliefs. And then when you meet a narcissist, it feels familiar. You don't know it's bad familiar. So it's not that you chose a narcissist so that you could get abused. You
It feels like home,
It feels like home, as
and
rotten
home was messed up.
as yeah, exactly. And the other piece I want to highlight for this listener who maybe, who knows, maybe holding out hope that the narcissist will change. I believe that there are narcissists who can change if they're willing to go and do the work. It takes a lot of work. A lot of work. You're making faces. Okay,
It
give me
well,
faces.
no, that's why I don't play poker. Let's just be real clear. I don't
Me
play poker
either. I
for a
don't have a
reason.
poker face.
Borderline personality disorder, BPD, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that it takes like 20 years of serious therapy for a borderline to get help, and that borderline has to be willing to admit they're a borderline in the beginning, which
Absolutely.
almost never happens. Isn't the same true for a narcissist? And the biggest problem with narcissists is, how do you know you're not a narcissist? Because you're willing to examine whether you are one or not.
Absolutely. And I agree with you that it is the work. If we go back to the time of, Freud and look at the research that was done on narcissists moving forward, it is one of the most challenging disorders to work with. And just like borderline, and as getting someone to shift from that because their internal awareness is so low, getting them to shift. So it really depends on the relationship they're in, how willing and wanting they are to change. Because if there's no desire to change, forget about it. And especially if that narcissist is in a job situation or has a way to get reinforcement from the outside world where they go in and they get kudos and they feel they bask in people's adoration or attention or whatever it is, then they don't have the need to change at home.
No, there's no need when they're getting told at the office that they're the best at whatever it is they do for a living. "Oh, Mr. or Mrs. So and so, you're the best trial attorney I've ever met. I love you. You're the best doctor I've ever met. I love you." They're not gonna change. They get the fix. They get that from they feed off that. Every time they hear that, it makes their NPD that much more unmanageable.
It does. And, I work with many people who work with narcissists, and they'll say things like, but, I could never say anything to the doctor I work for or the attorney I work for. I couldn't say anything because I depend on them for my job. I mean, that's how or the hospital won't get rid of so and so. So
No.
even if people are feeling that heavy weight of the narcissist in a work environment, they need to pay their rent, their mortgage, their food bills, their kids' tuition. They're not going to get in the narcissist's face and say,
No, because then hell hath no fury. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Hell hath no fury like a pissed off narcissist.
oh no. And because
Sorry for cursing.
And they can't take criticism. They can't take
Oh.
feedback, so it makes it all worse. So for back to our listener's question and looking at all of these pieces, and you've given so many tips, and it sounds as if on one hand you're saying, "Hey, have faith. You could get beyond this. There is life outside." If she still chooses to stay, what are maybe 3 top tips for her?
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Okay.
I mean, really, boundaries are an absolute. You also have to learn, and this is a hard one. It's a hard one even for the professionals that do this for a living. You don't engage. And that's a challenge because they will push every button they know how on you to get you to engage because they need that fix. So boundaries and don't engage and protect your peace at all costs.
Those are such good pieces, and the boundaries, just spending a moment there, being able to say, no, disengage, walk away. Being able to say, I won't tolerate it when you swear at me, and walk away. Being able to say, no, I won't make you dinner if you're going to tell me the food I make is no good after I've spent, because they love criticizing. Being able to say, no, I won't go to your work function because you're looking at all the women while I'm there and it doesn't feel good. You're looking at all the other men. It doesn't feel good. So these are all boundaries to say, no, I won't. And that way you end up living in a home space, or you can also do it in a yes way. Yes, I'm going to respect myself by leaving this conversation. Yes, I am going to believe that my truth is worth something, and I'm not going to let you gaslight. Excellent.
Thank you for your opinion.
Yes.
And then end the conversation. Thank you for your thought. Appreciate it. And walk out.
That is probably one of the biggest tips of all, is just that, Michele, being able to say thank you and walk away. And that's the narcissist wants you to engage. Remember, listeners, they want the reaction. And whether it's your boss, whether it's your partner, whether it's your parent, they feed off the reaction, and they'll feed just as much off the adoration as they will off of the negative.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't have to be positive. It doesn't. It is just positive, negative. It doesn't matter. It's just the feed because you are engaging with that person and they need the engagement to feed whatever it is that's going on in their head, but they have to have it. So it doesn't really matter if it's good or bad because they're still getting attention.
And so for our, listener who wrote in, Michele and I are saying it as if it's easy. It is so hard. It is, and I'm not laughing because I'm laughing.
You're laughing because it is that difficult and we know it. If you've lived it, you know it, and you laugh not because you're like, oh, but you will get through it because there are those that are on the other side and can tell you, you will get there. Even if it's the scariest thing you ever did in your life. And I gotta tell you, to some extent, I'd rather live under the freeway than live with a person that would treat someone like an NPD person would. Just not worth it.
No, you and I are very aligned, very aligned. When we've had those chats with ourselves, in the dark of night, and I remember that's how I was in my first marriage, where I finally said, hey, would I rather be living under a bridge, or would I rather be living with this person? And when I came to the truth, even though I knew deep in me that my family would never let me live under a bridge, that I wouldn't fall that low, like no matter
Right.
divorce, whatever, it was still so illuminating for me on a soul level to realize, oh, I would truly rather, that would be cozy. I would feel safer compared to
I
how
would,
I feel here.
and it sounds cliche, peace is priceless, but it is. The ability to fill your lungs with air again is a feeling that until you've been through it, you can't describe how good it feels.
Yes. I remember after my divorce, I put signs up around that said, my kids would just laugh. It'd say, don't break my spirit.
Oh
Don't break
yeah,
my
don't
spirit.
touch my peace, don't touch my boundaries. And yeah, it's I will say I'm forever grateful for the years for so many different reasons.
Mm.
I've got 3 beautiful kids, and I learned valuable lessons that I can help share with others.
And thank you, Michelle, because this is a really beautiful place to wind down. How important it is for us not to get stuck in blame, shame, resentment, all those things, they hold us back. But I agree with you looking, if we look back at all to be able to see, it's easy to pretend that if we didn't choose the marriage or the this or the that, life would have been perfect.
I
But
wouldn't have.
maybe life could have been worse. We don't know. Maybe we could have,
Don't know.
who knows?
That's
But
why it's a journey.
and
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
when you
pick you.
think about it, that as long as you learn from your past, as long as you glean something from it, something that you would like to do better in the future, some lesson that made you stronger, made you learn to love yourself or your kids more, whatever it might be, then that makes the pivot. You don't see them as wasted years. You see them as years that were definitely maybe proving grounds. Maybe, a lot of energy went somewhere you'd rather it not have, but not carrying that resentment with you, not carrying that baggage, and going into your next decade, 2, 3, whatever is ahead for you. We never know what life has for us.
No,
But
we don't.
not living in regret or resentment. That's giving somebody else way too much power.
You never give your power away. And when you live with regret, you are giving your power away.
Absolutely. Thank you for framing it that way. So, Michelle, any other thoughts, big or little, before we wind down?
No, I just want her to know that she's got what it takes to do what she needs to do to make herself safe and happy. And no matter what that path is, she'll be okay. She just got to figure out what the path is for her.
The path, whether it's to stay, work on boundaries, get support, create a life that she feels good in the bubble of her own life, or an exit plan, getting resources. And again, they are out there. I'll have some links in the show notes, along with my next question: where can our listeners find you?
They can find me on my website, which is michelelocke.com. And on my website has all the links it has a link to my podcast, which is Love Less Law. You can find that anywhere you find your podcasts. And then I'm on Instagram at Attorney Michele Locke. And just remember, my mother spelled my name with 1 L, not 2. So it's Michelle with 1 L. Thank you, Margot, for that. And she's Margot without the T, so it's, appropriate. But yeah, I'm not hard to find.
Excellent. So, listeners, it's Michele, Michele, Locke, Locke. Again, all the links for Michelle will be in the show notes. Michelle, thank you so much for your generosity, your compassion, your beauty, your wisdom, your funniness, your light. And I really appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope we can do this again.
It would be lovely. And to our listeners, thank you for sharing your time and energy and going into this journey with us today. It wasn't an easy one, but I hope the bit of levity helped make it seem a little bit lighter. So thank you. And this is Imperfect Love.
Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. Remember, you have the power to transform your life and love fearlessly, if imperfectly, and it's my privilege to help you along the way. You can find more life-changing content, including my books and other podcast episodes, at drcarlamanley.com. Feel free to submit your own confidential questions through my website. I'll do my very best to include your issue on a future episode. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. Until we connect again, this is Dr. Carla Marie Manley wishing you oceans of blessings and love. Please note, this podcast is psychoeducational in nature and is not intended to replace formal mental health support. Please contact your healthcare provider or emergency hotline if you need psychiatric care. And, as always, please take good care of your amazing, wonderful self.